I'm going to be going over 7 different ways to find the owners of vacant properties, as well as the best practices for actually finding these vacant properties, because sometimes those can be the most profitable real estate investing deals out there. So the very first way is an app called DealMachine. And you can download it. There's a small fee associated with it, but it's very easy to use. And I actually have a full tutorial video below on how to use it. And I'll show you a clip just so you can get a good idea of how it works. But basically, anytime you're driving around and you see a property that looks like it's in distress or looks like it's vacant, you basically just go up to the house. You can do it from your car. Take a photo of the actual house, input the address, and then DealMachine will automatically start marketing to them based on your criteria. So you can choose different settings. Maybe you market to them once a month, maybe it's once every few months. I'd probably recommend maybe once every 45 days or so. And what DealMachine will do is once you input the address, it will automatically do a skip tracing, so you can find out maybe the owner lives at the house, maybe they live halfway across the country, but you can get their contact information and then automatically start marketing to them. And this strategy is great because obviously it doesn't take up a lot of your time. You can just do this in your day-to-day activities. However, I would say, just to set your expectations, you can't expect to market to like 5 or 6 vacant properties if you find them and all of a sudden start getting all these leads. You really need to build up like a huge database of potentially vacant properties and then market to them consistently, over the course of a year or two, and then you'll start to see a lot of results. The next way to find the owners of vacant properties, and this is probably the most common way, is to use a skip tracing service. And there's plenty of skip tracing services out there. I'm sure they're all pretty good. You can read the reviews online. My preference is to use REI Skip from Max Maxwell. And from my understanding, I think he was like a former bounty hunter or something like that. Or, he was like a bill collector. So he basically had to track people down and then basically started his own service based around that. So the way skip tracing works is you might have a couple addresses, maybe it's just 1 or 2, or maybe you purchase a list of potentially motivated sellers and you really want to find out more of their contact information, emails, phone numbers, additional mailing addresses, things like that. And that's what skip tracing is good for. And no skip tracing service is going to be 100% accurate. However, what I like about REI Skip is that it's very easy to use, very inexpensive. A lot of the top investors use it. And I actually did a full tutorial video on that as well. The next way to find these deals is actually some cities and some counties will actually compile a list of vacant and blighted properties. Every city and county is going to be different, but for example, in Washington, D.C., I'll show you the list right here. They actually keep a pretty up-to-date list of all the vacant and blighted properties. And some of these vacant properties, it might have been investors that purchased them recently and are fixing them up. However, the way the vacant and blighted properties work in different cities is that usually if the city sees a property, maybe it's like a city inspector or a different housing official, sees a property that looks like it's in disrepair or vacant, broken windows, that type of thing, they will classify it as a vacant property and put it into basically like a different type of tax bracket, if you want to call it that. And they'll basically increase the property taxes every single year because it's not being taken care of. So that's basically supposed to incentivize the owner to get their stuff together and fix up the house, get someone living in there, whether it's themselves or a renter. But what you can do is you can find these lists and then go back to the skip tracing and find out who these owners are. And the best thing about these lists, of course, is that you don't have to drive around the city looking for the vacant or blighted properties. Somebody's already basically made this list for you. You just need to find out who the owners are and start contacting them. So before we go to the next one, if you're looking for a real estate mentor or looking to work together in some capacity, check out the links below and definitely reach out to me and we can have a quick chat and see if it makes sense to work together. The fourth way to find the owners of vacant properties is really just talking to the neighbors. And then obviously this is not like a completely scalable model where you can talk to thousands and thousands of neighbors. However, I know so many different real estate investors that have gotten amazing deals just from talking to the neighbors, and they'll tell you, oh yeah, this property was inherited and it's been vacant for 2 or 3 months and this is who you should contact. Or maybe they'll say, oh yeah, that's Larry's house. Larry lives over there. Here's his phone number. Go contact him. So there's all these different scenarios. And if you start talking to neighbors, sometimes they might even want to sell their house. So there's a lot of potential with that. The next way to find these owners of vacant properties is just to have door hangers in your car that says we buy houses with your phone number, email address, different ways. Some people like to contact people in different ways. So I always like to have 3 forms of communication. Some people are old school and they only want to call you. Other people want to send you an email. Other people want to send you a text message. So with these door hangers, you can print them out. If you see a vacant property, just run up to the door, put it on there, and go on to the next house. And to add on to that strategy a little bit, and this is more like definitely more in the gray area, and you probably shouldn't do this. If you're a licensed agent, you can probably get in trouble for doing this. But some people will actually put like "We buy houses" signs in the front yard of someone that has like a vacant looking property. So that's very aggressive. You may or may not get into issues with that, but it will usually get somebody's attention because sometimes these vacant property owners, maybe they check on it like once a month on the house. Maybe they don't check on it at all. Maybe a neighbor sees your sign, so that could be a potentially, maybe a little bit of a controversial way to get the person to call you, but could still work. The next way to find these vacant properties is what's called using a bird dog. And a bird dog could just be anybody. It could be like a landscaper. It could be, someone that's like in high school and just needs like a part-time job. But you could basically pay them like per lead that they send you. You can't really pay them per deal unless they're a licensed agent. But if they're like driving around in different communities and things like that and looking for some extra money, you can say, hey, I'll pay you like $1, whatever makes sense. You'd have to figure out what makes the most sense per like vacant address that you send me. And you would basically want them to send you, obviously the address and maybe a photo of the house. And then you can add this to your vacant property like database, and maybe you skip trace these people. But if you have like a whole team of bird dogs out there like sending you potential leads, that could add up. I mean, what if you got like 100 per week? You could really start to build a big list of qualified, motivated prospects. Because the thing about marketing, you could send your marketing to everyone in the entire neighborhood, but obviously like 95% of those people are probably not going to be interested in selling to an investor. However, if you target your marketing only at properties that look like they're in distress, you're going to be significantly better off that way. The next way, and this is probably the way that you could build a significant database of vacant properties, is to do a virtual driving for dollars. And if you're familiar with driving for dollars, it's basically like you just drive around looking for vacant properties and then taking down the address and, skip tracing them and marketing to them. And like I mentioned, like those ways work, but it's probably not the best use of your time to spend hours and hours like driving around. If you're just doing it like on your day-to-day activities and then you see a vacant house, that's one thing. However, with virtual driving for dollars, that's basically where you would pay a virtual assistant maybe $4 or $5 an hour to go on like Google Maps and just drive, just go through the neighborhood, just drive through the neighborhood and looking for vacant properties. And then they would write down the address and basically send you a list at the end of the day. And there are plenty of virtual assistants you can find on like Upwork or different places, or maybe for $5 an hour, you just tell them, hey, I'm looking for properties like this. All you need to do is get the address. Maybe you want the photo as well. And then if you have somebody doing that for you 8 hours a day in like specific targeted neighborhoods that you're looking for, you're going to have a pretty qualified list of potentially motivated prospects. Then you would still have to, obviously skip trace them and then start contacting them, whether it's direct mail, phone calls, text, email. That's a pretty good way to get some motivated sellers. The next way to track down these owners is actually just whitepages.com. I remember I was at a property in Washington, D.C., and there was like a vacant property right next to basically like $1 million house. And we were trying to obviously find the owner, but we were just kind of there like right on the spot, so we didn't have like a ton of time. And I literally just like Googled the address. Whitepages.com came up with the owner's contact information. I texted them, and they weren't interested in selling at the time. However, it was a pretty fast response and a pretty easy lookup. And they're like, no, keep us in mind, but for right now, we're good. So that's a free way to really track down some of these owners. And the key with all this marketing to vacant property owners, you really want to have a big database, like I mentioned, and just continually market to them. You want to have a minimum of 100 people. It's not going to work if you just have 3 or 4 owners that you're kind of like going after to purchase their property. And in a lot of markets, like think about your marketing over the course of a year. In a lot of markets, especially Washington, D.C., you can make 6 figures on one deal. So if you just get one deal over the course of an entire year, that could easily like replace your job's income. So keep that in mind. You shouldn't be discouraged if you send out 5 letters and you don't get any responses. A lot of times with direct mail, your response rate might only be like 1 or 2%. Whereas like texting and email and phone calls, that's going to be a higher percentage rate. You always have to check your area's regulations, but there's a lot of ways to contact people. If you're interested in getting a real estate mentor or working together in some capacity, definitely check out the links below and reach out to me, and we can have a quick chat and see if it makes sense to work together. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.